Throughout this training, or at any time you need support, there are many ways to contact us. You can follow us on all major social media platforms or email us directly via our website, or you can click the Cancel Connect icon shown at the bottom of this slide on our website to book a consultation with one of our experts. When working on solving a complex problem, we go through the effort and the rigor of defining and measuring the problem, then analyzing all the different factors in the process that are contributing to the problem. When creating solutions, we explore the many different proven solutions, such as 5S, Kanban, just-in-time processing, etc., to determine whether those methods might solve the specific root causes of our problem. And while they often will, sometimes we need to add unique solutions or ideas to make it work for our specific scenario. This is when we tap into brainstorming. But this doesn't mean just sitting around a meeting room listing ideas. We'll cover a few advanced techniques to generate strong solutions.
Did you know that the average child laughs 400 times per day? And they don't laugh a little. They do big belly laughs with their whole bodies falling on the floor laughing. Adults, however, are a little bit different. Hey, how many times a day do you think the average adult laughs? Any idea?
I don't know.
Well, it's 15.
That's
And they're
low.
not big laughs either. They're the small, polite, hee-hee laughs, that us adults do.
Well, many adults think that they're not creative, but that's not really a thing. Kids are all creative. It's just when we grow up, a lot of us don't tap into our creativity much anymore. So good brainstorming requires that we give ourselves the chance to be creative, to open up our minds. We've done the hard work of defining, measuring, and analyzing the problem. Now we'll collaborate to come up with some truly innovative ideas. Sometimes it's not hard to get the creative thoughts into your mind, as hard as it is to get the old ones out, but we'll work on that too. Basic brainstorming starts with a whiteboard and an objective. Try this along with us. Use your workbook page to list as many types of birds as you can. Start writing. A couple more. Now, if we were to say seagull, you might start adding ocean birds. So keep going. Maybe you write down sandpiper, pelican, and then we might say foghorn leghorn. And you'll start thinking about cartoon birds like Tweety Pie, Daffy Duck, and Roadrunner. Then someone says pterodactyl, and you go down another whole path. The point is that we build upon each other's ideas, and that's why we say the more creative the better, and that there are no bad ideas, not at this point anyway. Basic brainstorming is stating an objective and then capturing all ideas as they're offered.
Another technique is called the anti-solution. The anti-solution sets up the brainstorming session with the objective of how do we make our problems worse? I know we're all good at this overthinking thing. So if our problem is that our turnaround time is too slow, the objective is to come up with ways to make it even slower. If costs are too high, how do we make them even higher? With the anti-solution, the team brainstorms ideas, and then when ideas have been captured, they explore each one and flip it to see what they uncover and if they uncover any unique approaches. For example, in this list from one of our hospital customers, the team came up with no home for X-ray equipment and no one assigned to assuring that rooms are ready. When they flipped the anti-solution ideas around, they came up with two good ideas that they ended up developing.
The third technique is called a mind map. Just as in every great idea, its power lies in its simplicity. In a mind map, as opposed to a traditional note-taking or linear text, information is structured in a way that resembles much more closely how your brain actually works. Since it's an activity that is both analytical and artistic, it engages your brain in a much richer way, helping in all its cognitive functions. And best of all, it's fun. This is a mind map about, conveniently enough, mind mapping itself. It presents in a visual way the core elements and techniques on how to draw mind maps. This may look like a messy diagram initially, but it's okay to be messy until we're ready to document the final process. We don't need to worry about perfection. This is all about generating and capturing our ideas.
Channel brainstorming is the next technique. Channeling in this sense means categories. So we might brainstorm different categories of solutions such as software or roles or policies. Let's try a simple example. Let's say that you are a patient in an operating room and you can hear everything that the doctor is saying. In your workbook are two columns or two channels for you to capture your ideas. The first column is things you'd love to hear, and the second column is things you'd hate to hear. Take a few moments now to see how many ideas you can come up with under each of these channels.
The final technique is called analogy brainstorming. This requires us to come up with a scenario that's analogous to our current process, but different. For example, let's say that our goal is to increase sales. We might come up with an analogous scenario of a vineyard, and we'll brainstorm ideas with the team to increase our yield of grapes in the vineyard. The team will come up with ideas such as better fertilizer, ensuring proper sunshine, trimming the vines when needed, starting with healthy seeds, etc. Then the team can explore those ideas and see which of them might apply to their own sales scenario.
Or another example might be that our objective is to get people to follow procedures. Maybe our analogy is how to get elderly people to use a computer. The team might come up with ideas like make clear and visible instructions, give them practice activities, make sure that the tools are in good working condition, and then again, taking those ideas and seeing what can apply. This can be a real great way to get away from the stale ideas that come from working in the same industries all the time, the same company, same people, and the same team. It's a way to open up your mind and get some new ideas in there.
When we're brainstorming, we are looking for ways to make our processes more robust and more simple. Consider brainstorming ways to increase the skills and knowledge of the employees. How to do two things at once, that's called parallel processing. How can we incorporate one at a time processing instead of allowing units to sit and wait to be worked on? Where can we increase accountability for an entire job so that there's ownership from beginning to end? And how do we increase the visibility or line of sight so that people in the process can see what's going on throughout the entire process?
So these are some of the fundamental concepts to create a robust process that can handle a wide variety of conditions and changes, and at the same time creating a more simplified process with fewer steps, decisions, paths, and handoffs.
Just as a quick reference, here are a few examples of the strong type of solutions, which includes ideas that remove waste or simplify the process, standardization of equipment or processes, automation of a streamlined process, having demonstrated leadership support, which is always necessary for good results, and improving the layout to create efficiencies.
Some moderate type solutions would include things like creating checklists and job aids, minimizing workload or distractions, improving existing documentation, technical or software modifications, and eliminating look-alikes and sound-alikes.
And on the weaker side of ideas, we'd see things like adding double checks, adding warnings or reminders, or coming up with no solution at all, suggesting that we need to continue analysis. And one of the weakest of all would be retraining.
When coming up with solution ideas, it can be a real challenge to allow ourselves to be creative, especially when we have been in the process for a while. We begin to develop a lot of assumptions about what won't work.
So speaking of assumptions, there's a technique called assumption busting that's a part of any creative process. So let's make this term assumption busting a little more concrete by looking at one of our favorite examples of an industry with assumptions that are just ripe for busting, the glamorous world of laundromats.
Ooh.
We're probably all familiar with the many fluorescent bathed laundromats that dot the streets of most cities. Although they may look a little bit different inside, maybe the age of the machines is different, or the colors of the wall, the out of order sign hanging above the change machine, they all share one thing in common. They're some of the most unpleasant spaces to spend time in, only slightly edging out the post office or the DMV.
So what exactly is going on here? Is the aesthetic appeal of laundromats simply a reflection of the economics of the business model? In other words, is fluorescent lighting and peach-colored paint all that laundromats can offer given their thin profit margins? Tell Howard Schultz, the founder of Starbucks, that, and I'm sure it would make him chuckle. Starbucks showed the world, or at least the US, that masses of people were not only willing to spend more than $1 on a cup of coffee, they were willing to spend 5 times that amount given the right atmosphere and service. Starbucks busted the long-held assumption regarding the range of possible coffee behaviors of US consumers, and they completely redefined the market.
The truth about laundromats is simple. It's not about the bottom line. Laundromats are unpleasant places not because they can't afford to look nicer, but because their owners have come to assume that the customers are satisfied with the existing price and value paradigm. And given the shortage of available alternatives, it's reasonable to conclude that customers are in fact relatively satisfied.
Were laundromat operators to bust existing assumptions regarding the role that a laundromat can play in people's lives, and, for example, make laundromats a place we'd really like to spend some time, operators could open doors on whole new revenue streams. These new revenue streams could more than cover the cost of laundromat beautification, just like Starbucks transformed the drinking of coffee into an experience which enticed people to linger around and purchase additional products and use their Wi-Fi. Laundromats are perfect places to follow such a strategy, given that their customers are captive to their dirty laundry for an hour or longer at a time.
So let's set our opportunities within the laundromat business aside and discuss how you can locate assumption busting opportunities within your own business. Busting is a 3-step process, and like many approaches that can uncover large opportunities, it requires your time, your focus, and some of your best thinking.
The first step is to list assumptions. Carefully look at the situation. What are the assumptions you are making about it? What seems so obvious that you would not normally think about challenging it? List out these assumptions. Once you get going, you'll find you can't stop. And when you do, find the assumptions that are stopping you and challenge these. For example, I might assume that deliveries take a minimum of 3 days and that this is no problem for my customers. Remember that everything is a belief. Even this statement, even your interpretation of this statement. If you cannot find assumptions, that you are assuming that they do not exist, which is not true.
Step 2 is to challenge those assumptions. Assume that all assumptions can be challenged and overcome. Ask, could it be possible that this is not true? And how do we know?
Step 3 is to find ways of making the challenge reality. This is another assumptive challenge. It's easy in a creative session to play games of challenging assumptions. The real challenge is to make it happen in reality. So just use the same principle again. For example, Claire?
Okay, let's say the situation is we cannot sell this new product over the internet. So the assumption is that we don't have the technology. We can bust that by saying, well, we can learn, we can create it, we can buy it. The assumption is that buying it would be expensive. Let's bust that. You don't know until you ask. Hire a college student to do it maybe. Maybe there's an assumption that a college student wouldn't do it professionally. Let's bust that. Look at these sites he did in the past. He can at least do a trial site to prove the principle. Assumption, it won't work. Busting, a trial site would help prove this.
In our everyday lives, we make an enormous number of assumptions about how the world works around us. Normally this works just fine, but in creative situations, it can blind us to many possibilities and opportunities. Assumption busting works by deliberately seeking out and addressing these previously unquestioned assumptions.
Remember, innovative solutions don't need to be complicated. They just need to be effective. And usually, the best solutions are simple and elegant. There's a great story about a junior high that illustrates this beautifully. As we know, people, especially teenagers, enjoy doing the opposite of what they're told to do. In this middle school, the janitor named Elogio had to stay late every day to clean the lipstick marks off of the bathroom mirrors. He got tired of this unnecessary task, so he went to the principal for help. Unfortunately, that backfired. The lipstick marks doubled after the principal made an announcement about it.
Oh dear. So Elijah decided to take a more creative approach. He asked for a short meeting with all the possible culprits at the bathroom, where he told them about his daily frustration. He said, "Ladies, thank you for coming. Every day at the end of the day, I have to go through an unnecessary cleaning process. I'd like to show you, and I'm hoping that you'll be willing to help and listen. If you look over here to the mirror, you see greasy lip prints that are difficult to get off. And I go home every day late because I spend so much time on these mirrors.
I'd like to show you what I have to do every day. I dip this squeegee into the toilet to get it nice and wet, and then I wipe down the mirrors from top to bottom just like this."
Needless to say, their reactions were priceless, and we're pretty sure that they never kissed those mirrors again. If you stay open to the possibilities, you may find that the best solutions are the simplest ones.
Through the exploration of proven solutions and through brainstorming advanced techniques, you'll have identified multiple options to minimize or eliminate the root causes of your problem. As a rule of thumb, you should have at least 2 options to choose from. Maybe a shorter term or easier to implement solution that might have a smaller impact, and then a longer term solution that will have a bigger impact, for example. For each of the viable solutions, those that appear to have the best chance of eliminating the root cause, the team will need to write a short description of that solution so that they can be evaluated. Throughout your project, you will create 4 statements. In the define phase, you will clarify the problem with the problem statement. Then in measure, you'll clarify a measurable goal in the goal statement. When you've validated the root cause or causes of the problem in the analyze phase, you'll formalize that with the root cause statement. And here in the improve phase, you'll identify your options for solutions with the solution statement.
When the options for solutions have been formalized into statements, the team can move to the next step of selecting the best solution for their project. In your workbooks is an example from a coffee shop. The problem is that the coffee delivered to the customers is not hot enough. The goal is to reduce the proportion of cold coffee from 25% to less than 5%. There were 3 separate root causes identified. The first one was one of the coffee makers is not heating properly. Second one, some of the servers place the coffee on top of the refrigerated goods case, which is cold, as it waits for the rest of the order to be completed. And third, there is no consistent procedure for holding beverages. All the servers have their own rules.
So the teams come up with 2 different options, each to address the 3 root causes. Option 1 is to repair the coffee maker, add warming plates on top of the refrigerated goods case, and standardize the procedure for holding time. Option 2 is to replace the coffee maker and to eliminate any holding of beverages by serving immediately. Stating the solutions concisely and clearly will allow the team to assess the best option. At this time, you can take a quick quiz on this module, Beyond Brainstorming.
Good luck! It has been our sincere pleasure being with you through this part of the training, and we thank you for your dedication to creating a better workplace and an environment that you can truly enjoy.